Dr. Prashant Ambad is a professor at JSPM University Pune with over 2 decades of academic research and academic administrative experience in mechanical and manufacturing engineering. He is currently serving as the Director of Internal Quality Assurance SAIL, contributing significantly to industrial quality enhancement, accreditation, preparedness, and academic process standardization. His academic journey reflects strong foundation in production and reliability engineering, combined with leadership roles in higher education governance and quality assurance systems. Dr. Ambad completed his PhD in reliability engineering from IIT Delhi, where his research focused on warranty optimization and reliability-based decision methodologies. He holds an ME in production engineering from VJTI Mumbai and BE in production engineering from JNEC Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. His core research areas include Industry 4.0, reliability engineering, warranty management, maintenance engineering, and quality engineering. Over the years, he has contributed to interdisciplinary research integrating data analytics, smart manufacturing, and industrial optimization techniques. With teaching experience spanning more than 20 years, he has taught a wide range of undergraduate and postgraduate courses, including manufacturing processes, mechanical measurement, and metrology. Industry 4.0, smart manufacturing, reliability engineering, data analytics, and machine learning applications in engineering. He has also contributed as a teaching assistant at IIT Delhi in multiple postgraduate and undergraduate courses related to production, quality, and maintenance engineering. Dr. Ambad sir has held several key administrative and academic leadership positions, including Director IQAC, Dean Academics, Dean Academics and Quality Assurance, IQAC Coordinator, and Head of the Mechanical Engineering Department. He has actively contributed to policy implementation related to NEP 2020 accreditation frameworks such as NAC and NBA and institutional ranking initiatives including NIRF. He has been associated with multiple academic boards, research councils, and university level committees, demonstrating strong institutional governance capabilities. His research portfolio includes publication in reputed international journals and conferences, particularly in reliability engineering, manufacturing optimization, Industry 4.0 applications, and maintenance strategy selection. He has also contributed to book chapters in international conference proceedings. In addition, he has successfully executed consultancy projects for government and industry, including manufacture evaluation and industry-linked innovation projects, attracting significant external funding and industry collaborations opportunities. Dr. Ambad is actively involved in faculty development, research mentoring, innovation promotion, and industry academia collaboration initiatives. He has organized and delivered numerous workshops, FDPs, and expert lectures on outcome-based education, Industry 4.0 accreditation process, and academic quality systems. He is also associated with professional bodies such as ISTE, IIE, IAENG, and IIPE, contributing to professional and academic networking at national and international levels. He has received multiple recognitions, including Research Publication Awards, Young Achievers Recognition, and Institutional Innovation Rankings. His career reflects a balanced and blend teaching excellence, research contribution, institutional leadership, and academic quality enhancement aligned with national and global higher education standards. Once again, I welcome Dr. Prashant Ambad sir to deliver his lecture in the given subject. I am also thankful to the organizer of this short-term course, for giving me this opportunity to introduce such a eminent personality. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. And is the slides, first slide is visible?
Yes, sir, visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, Dr. Shivaji, for giving the introduction, and Dr. Kunal Datta. So I will start with that presentation. So the topic which is given to me is the methodological introduction of outcome-based education, philosophy of that, and then what is the importance in the present day perspective. So, already I had introduction. Just so these are some of the contents which I will cover depending upon the availability of the time. So, if possible, I will try to cover all the contents which are OB related contents. Then what is in the need of accreditations, what is the OB framework that we follow in the education systems, and then how different learning domains are there. Along with that, some part of mapping, attainment, and then how we can close the quality loops and those things. So this will be the general content that I try to cover. So what is global recognition of OB? So if we go through the international adoption, we'll find that outcome-based education has started since 1980s, and the in 1989 the Washington Accord has started, and then slowly the India has also started observing that so this education system will be useful in India, and then 2013 onwards, India has started implementation, especially in the NBA. And then in few years back, even the NAC has mandated it, and then the NAC has also started this outcome-based education. And now a new format is coming. All of you may be having an idea about that. With new format, a binary accreditations will be there, and the entire format is will be converted into a outcome-based education. Right. So I start generally my presentation with this slide. I want comment from your side. So basically, if you see this particular context, so here some exam is going on. So the exam is for climbing the tree, and in front of the teacher, different students are sitting. So can anybody comment me what will be the assessment criteria, and how the results will be there of this exam?
The participants are exam given students are of different skills, but
Yeah,
the parameter of exam is same.
yeah. So and who will be the best student in this for the exam that has been quoted? So as per you, who will be the winner?
Those who have the skill to climb the tree.
Yeah. So out of these students, who has the best skill to
Monkey,
climb?
monkey,
Yeah,
sir.
monkey. Right. So you said a skill, right?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, so skill has
Maybe
very important.
abilities, not skill, but abilities.
Yeah, but it has to do with skill also, right?
Yes, sir.
Ability is
Skill and
there,
ability both.
but yeah, both the things are required. Whenever you want to give some exam, and in that exam, the both the things will be having the same importance. Though you will find that if you observe the different students who are present here, you will find that there is a elephant which is the strongest animal who is present here. There is also intelligent animal who is the human being which is present here. There is again one more strong candidate with a lion, but still they could not able to climb the tree because the skill sets required or the abilities required to climb the tree are not present in them. In some case, the human can, but the speed at which the monkey can climb the tree that cannot be achieved by the human being. So just understand the examination system that we have. we are not much worried about what type of abilities students have or the skill set student have. We set the question papers generally in the form of some theory sessions, and then student write it for 2 to 3 hours, and based on that we evaluate the performance, and based on that we say that this student is good, this student is bad, and then based on the whatever the grade sheet that we'll get, based on that we'll evaluate the performance, based on that the student get placement. But that scenario will not be continue henceforth. So there is a change in the systems of hiring and going ahead. And what happens because of that? So this quote will be very important. So everybody is genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is a stupid, right? So the same thing happens with number of students that we have. Number of times the student could not able to perform, then the parents will say that you don't have ability to clear the exams, and your results are also not good, and because of that students also get irritated, and he or she will find it that he or she is stupid because the examination was could not be cleared by the student. So what we need to understand from this is what has to be changed, because whenever we talk about our teaching learning process, whenever we talk about the assessment systems, whenever we talk about the examination systems, so we need to consider that what the ability the students will have. So it may not be the same for all the students. So if you see the NAC and different accreditation agencies, they have started addressing this issue, and nowadays they are also giving a good amount of weightage in your SAR as well as SSR with different affiliated systems and even the autonomous systems. You will find the NAC has included the weightage for the course outcomes and then program outcomes, the program specific outcomes, and those things. If you say autonomous, again, the 30 marks weightage is given. And in case of university, a 20 marks weightage is given for the outcome-based education specific parameters. But in the next accreditation, which is coming up, so that will the weightage will increase. Right. So basically, this framework has been started basically right from 2015 in engineering education. And what this framework will say that, so in OB framework, the NB has, which is one of the most important accreditation agencies in the engineering education, that has come up with something called as a outcome-based education, in which what is importance is that the institutions are offering the different undergraduate courses, who the students who are coming to this engineering courses are mainly the graduates from the 12th standard. And there are so many stakeholders involved. The stakeholders may be university, state university, AICT, NBA, parents, industry, and technology. So based on the graduates, those are getting into education. They produce the engineering graduates with defined abilities like POs, PSOs that we'll see in the future life. And then based on that, they will seek the different factors which will have an impact, like the social factors, the market factors, and economic factors. And based on that, we try to get the placements in some reputed companies, and then we students will try for higher education. Some will want to enter into entrepreneurship. So these are the things which are expected students will try to get, and are involved into the activity with after 4 years, and that will be also recorded or been checked by the program educational objectives. So whenever we talk about the outcome-based education, so the closing the loop is very, very important. So what do you mean by closing the loop? So what are the processes that we follow for the accreditation? So that processes will follow a model called as a Deming's quality circle. So some of you may have idea about that. So this circle of quality is popularly known as PDCA circle. So PDCA means plan, do, check, act. So whenever we talk about the processes which are involved into the manufacturing or maybe education, everywhere this particular Deming's circle will be
Sir, voice is not coming.
Okay. Okay. So this is basically a PDCA cycle. PDCA cycle is a plan, do, check, act. So whenever we are planning the activity, you have to complete that activity. You have to measure the performance of that activity. And based on the activity that you have performed, you need to understand that what actually you have achieved. Means you have done some planning and you have achieved something. And then based on what you have achieved something, so you have to initiate the appropriate action commencing the next round of the quality circle. So if you have found some gaps in the what you have decided, so in that case, so those gaps has to be fulfilled in the next cycle. So as it says, it is a circle. So this process will continue for all the activities that you are planning. So in case of action, so if the attainment lags behind the planned target, we need to further analyze the reasons for the same and plan the suitable corrective actions for the next round. So if you could able to achieve the or you could able to exceed the planned target, so we need to raise the bar and then we need to plan for achieving the new target level. So this same PDCA cycle will continue in the education, and that is the main uh, when thing which we need to consider when we talk about the outcome-based education. So outcome-based education always talk about the continuous improvement. So quality of learning will depend very much on the context characterized by the students, teachers, processes as determined by the system, technology, curriculum, and structure. So closing the quality loop enables the departments to focus on what specific actions lead to incremental improvement. So whenever we talk about PDCA, we talk about the improvements. In every cycle that you go through of plan, do, check, act, it is very much necessary that in the next cycle, which we are performing again, so in that case, there should be incremental improvements which will be happening. If there is a gap, you need to try to fulfill the gap. If there is no gap, but you have achieved the target or exceed the target, in that case, you need to raise the target. So likewise, you need to continue this particular cycle, which is again the most important thing from the point of view of OBE. So continuous improvement in the quality of learning is what characterizes the essence of present NBA accreditation. And the same philosophy is now followed by the NAC, and you'll find that in future, all the systems will be working on the same thing. So if you see in the NBA has given a lot of weightage to outcome-based education. Rather, the new format which has been just started in the July 2025, in that format, most of the criteria of NBA are talking about the outcome-based education. And everywhere you'll find that the POs, then the vision mission statements, and then the POs, PSOs, and COs are being taken care of, and you'll find that the more and more weightage is given to this. So in nutshell, you'll find so much of weightage is given in their SAR, right? And in future, the same may be the case with the NAC. So when I want to define the outcome-based education, so there are 2-3 important terms we need to understand. So when we say NAC, so this is basically the outcome-based education. So this is basically a process which involves the restructuring the curriculum, assessment and reporting practices in education to reflect the achievement of higher order learning and mastery. So what is important is that, so we need to restructure the curriculum that we have. We also need to restructure the assessment that we have. And we also need to restructure the reporting practices that we use in the education. And what is the importance of doing all this restructuring is that, so we need to achieve the higher order learning and mastery rather than accumulation of the course credits. So here we need to understand that what is higher order learning. So in the future slides, we'll come across what is higher order learning and what is the mastery in terms of the learning outcomes or the learning domains. So when we say outcome-based education, so outcome-based education we're talking about. So it is talking about the focusing on the outcome of program through input-output parameter are also looked into. So what knowledge, skill, behavior graduate is expected to attain upon just completion of a program and after 3 to 4 years of the graduation. So these three important things we need to focus on when we talk about the outcome-based model. So one is the knowledge, another is the skill, and third one is the behavior. So these are three learning domains which we'll be focusing on. And based on that, what is expected from the candidate or the student and what you will achieve from that particular three skill sets. So that we need to understand. Okay, so these are the observable and measurable abilities of the graduates. So when we say what the students need to achieve, so till 2019, the NBA was based on the input-output model, and in that it was just the same thing what we were doing in the traditional way. And in 2013 onwards, January 2013 onwards, the NBA has switched to the outcome-based assessment model, in which the NBA was talking about the outcome-based education. So in the present examination system, so memorization occupies the dominant place. So memorization does mean we set the question paper, a theoretical question paper. We allow the student to go through the entire syllabi or the curriculum of that course. The student will read it. A student will try to understand it, and student will try to reproduce the contents that the student have memorized during the course of study. And in this case, so what the student is doing is the mug up. And mug up, because of the memorization, which is the dominant place which is taking in the present scenario, so we have to reduce that particular thing, and we need to try to change the way in which the students are being assessed. So the recall of factual knowledge through the essential to any examination is only one of several abilities to be demonstrated by the graduates. Though the examination systems are important, but only understanding or recalling the knowledge may not be the final outcome which is expected from the student. So the assessment process must also test the higher level skills, for example, ability to apply the knowledge, solve the complex problems, analyze, synthesis, and design. So professional skills like the ability to communicate, works in team, lifelong learning have become important elements for the employability of the graduates. So what we need to understand that what type of skill sets are required when you want to get employed into some good organizations. When you want to get employed, so they will not test only the knowledge, but they will also test you the ability of the student to communicate. So they also need to test what is the ability of the student to work in the teams, as well as the lifelong learning abilities, because after getting graduated, nobody is there to ask the student or help the student to learn the new things, but the student has to develop those ability among themselves so that they should have the lifelong learning abilities. So it is important that the examinations also give the appropriate weightage to the assessment of these higher level skills and the professional competencies which are required from the point of view of employability. So, so there are two terms which are being commonly used. One is the output and another is the outcome, right? So, so whenever we say a result, so that result is either an outcome or whether that result is output or outcome that we need to understand. So this is basically a scenario. So there are two cities, city A and city B. And we know that in the Sambhajinagar, we have the nearby river, Godavari River. And there are city A and city B. There is a residential area which is situated in city A, and there is a workplace which is situated in city B. So, and people are staying in the city A and they are going for work in city B. So when I'm saying that they have to go to city B, so what they have to do, this as the river is flowing, there is a bridge which is being constructed, and that bridge is 5 kilometers from city A and 5 kilometers from city B. And whenever we talk about this particular bridge, so every time if I need to start for my workplace, so I need to start early in the morning. I have to travel 5 kilometers. Then I cross the bridge. Again, I will travel for 5 kilometers. to city B and I complete the work for, or I work for the complete day. I will finish the work and again I will go back 5 kilometers to city. Sorry, 5 kilometers to cross the bridge and then again 5 kilometers to city A. So if you want to travel daily, so you have to travel around 20 kilometers minimum for traveling from city A to city B for the work and coming back to the home. So whenever I talk about that, so you have your traveling time will be very huge, because it is fine if you are into some small cities, but if you talk about the Pune like cities, that here we need around 1 to 1.5 hours to reach to 10 kilometers distance. So what will happen to the worker or the employees which are working in the workplace? So they get tired because they are traveling 10 kilometers to reach to city bay. So they will complete the work, again they get tired, so again they will go back to the city A by traveling 10 kilometers, and at home also they will get tired because and they could not able to perform any new task. And the same thing happens when they will travel to city B. They though they are they have to complete some work, but they are not in a position to do it immediately. So because of the traveling that they are doing. Okay, so what is the next point? So that we need to understand. So people thought of like why because we need to travel so much of distance, and there are so many number of employees which are traveling to city B for the work. So what the the management over there has done, so they have constructed a bridge which is only 500 meters from city A and 800 meters from city B. Right. So so now the scenario has been changed. So what was the scenario now? Uh, so for going from city A to city B, they have to travel 500 meters till the bridge and 800 meters to city B. So it is 1.3 kilometers. And again, they travel back 1.3 kilometers to reach to city A. So can anybody tell me what the change will happen with the workers? So anybody just comment?
Yes, sir. Workers will get more time,
Yeah.
as well as
So
they will not spend their energy in traveling. So
yeah.
their concentration of work will ultimately be increased.
Mhm. So
Their
so
productivity will be
yeah,
increased.
so that is what we are expecting in the outcome, because see, the river is same, the city is same, city A is same, city B is same, workers are same. What change we have done? We have only changed the position of the bridge from 5 kilometers to 500 meters, and because of that, you will find that so lot of things has been changed, and the entire scenario has been changed, and that is what is we are expecting in the outcome. So if you see any work that you want to do, so at one end you have a team which is output oriented team. So what the team says that I hit my target of 60 arrows a minute. So and what is the outcome? So none of the arrow could able to hit the target. There is a second team called as outcome based or the outcome oriented team. So that team says that I hit an actual business goal, or in other way I have hit a single arrow, and that single arrow hit the target. So the difference that we need to understand over here is that, so we need not to worry about how many arrows you hit. What is important is that the arrow that you hit is actually achieving the target or not. So the same thing happens in our daily life. So about the student, we need not to consider that how many lectures we have conducted, but what is important is what the student need to learn. So what the student need to learn, and apart from learning, what the student should demonstrate to the professional world. For example, some of you might have experienced that if I have a communication skill as one of the course which a student need to undergo, so what you are expecting as the outcome of that course? So if you have a course called as a communication skills, And in that communication skill, what type of outcomes I will have, or what you are expecting out of communication skill at the end of the course. Anybody, please. So anybody who is teacher of communication skill or any other person.
Able to communicate.
Okay, able to communicate, right? So based on that, you'll first of all, I need to understand what type of communication, right? Whether it is a written communication or oral communication, right? So if I want that the student should be having the ability to have a better or good oral communication, so what assessment tools you should choose? Because if I have a assessment tool as a end semester exam in which the student is writing a paper of 2 hours with a weightage of 50 marks, will that do?
No, sir, no.
No, sir.
No. Why? Why?
Because
Why?
communication is the every day, every time process, and it is end examination is not so suitable to judge the knowledge of the communication.
But as a faculty, have you seen that most of the communication skill have written exams? So in institutes, you will find that the communication skill like courses also have the written examinations.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. So we need to understand this particular phenomena, right? So we need to understand that what the student has to demonstrate. If you are saying that I want to go to the driving, suppose I went to a driving school and I want to drive a car. So that was my expectation. And if that driving school person will say that, so now you sit on this simulator. You might be knowing there are simulators for the vehicle driving. So those simulators, you sit on the simulator and now you can learn the vehicle and you understand that there are three elements like acceleration, is there, brake is there, and then you have clutch. So he will explain you how to press the clutch, how to brake, or how to press the acceleration. Will that do? It will not, right? Because
Not.
what is it?
Practical.
Yeah, practical is important because unless you will start driving the car by sitting, and then if you are on the road, then only it is possible to demonstrate the abilities of the driving, right? So same thing is happening here. So when I say demonstrate, I also need to design both curricular and delivery methods of teaching to build the required skills and competencies. Because my curricula should say that if I want to learn driving, in that case there should be practicals, not the theoretical means to say that these are the different elements of the car, and then this is the speed at which you are driving. So though these things are important, but along with that, we also need to ensure that the skill set which is required for drive the car is to drive the car actually the practical way. So this thing is very important. If I am trying to learn the swimming as one of the course, it should not be only the what is the what theoretical aspects are there for the swimming, but I need to swim actually, right? So why we want to go for the outcome based accreditation is globalization has brought a clear shift from the education as a transmission of expert knowledge to education as building learner competencies include learning to learn and lifelong learning. Because as I have told you that once you get the student gets graduated from the institute, it is nobody is there to help him to learn out. So what the student has today, as soon as the student will enter into some company or any organization, the boss over there will tell that student that now you have to. So if you are a student of say computer science, the boss over there will tell the student that you have to complete this project in the Python. So if I am saying the Python, the boss will not ask the student that whether you know the Python or not. So there you need to do the lifelong learning, and you should have ability learning to learn. So this means the focus has to be on understanding the fundamentals very well, learning new skills and competencies required, and that will best on the demands of the rapidly changing the workplace. So the prepare the global engineers or maybe the um, students of that particular domain, depending upon that. So when we say OB, so OB has the various important terminologies which we need to understand. So in that case, we have the vision, mission, and POs as the first term that we need to understand. Then we have program outcomes, PSOs. Then we talk about the program curriculum, and then the student performance, faculty contribution, facilities and technical supports. Along with that, we have academic support units and teaching learning process that we follow. We talk about the governance, institutional support, financial resources, and continuous improvement. So these are the generally the criteria that we'll see in the NAC or NBA related accreditations, and all these parameters or all these terminologies will be some way or the other way are contributing to the achievement of outcome-based education. When we say outcomes, so outcomes will start with program outcomes. So when we say program outcomes, so these are the statements which describe that what the students graduating from any educational program should be able to do. So if a student is a BE engineering student, so there are abilities which is required as engineering. If the student is a law student, there are abilities which are required as a law student. If the student is a say art student, the student needs to have some abilities as a student of Bachelor of Arts. And then we talk about the specific outcomes along with the program outcomes. Initially, when the NBA started, they only had the program outcomes, and they say that as per your branch of study, you have to define the program outcomes for your own program. And then there was a shift. The Washington Accord has shifted this focus, and they said that the program outcomes, rather the Washington Accord used the terminology as the graduate attributes. So that will be the attributes which is required by the every graduating student from the engineering institute. And what the NBA or the National Board of Accreditation does, so they have taken all the graduate attributes as the program outcomes. So in the earlier, there were 12 program outcomes were defined, and based on that, it was decided that if the student has to graduate as an engineer, so these are the abilities or these are the things which is required in the student. And then when program outcomes were generalized for all the engineering student, then the program outcome, specific outcomes has a role. So these are related to the specific programs. For example, if I am BTech in the mechanical engineering, I have a specific outcomes which is required as a mechanical engineering. If a student is a BA English student, so I need a specific outcomes as a BA in English. If I am a BSc, say organic chemistry student or the chemistry student, I need to have some specific attributes as a student of the BSc chemistry. So likewise, this program specific outcomes were defined. And the important thing, which is very, very important from the teacher point of view, is the course outcomes. So these are the statements which describe the student should able to do at the end of the course. Means what? So basically how these particular things will happen. The program specific outcomes and program outcomes will be achieved through the use of course outcomes, because during their graduation or post-graduation, student will go through some 20 to 40 number of courses, and through those courses, we are expecting that the required program specific outcomes as well as program outcomes will be achieved. So when we say the flow of the process of outcome-based education, we need to understand that what the student should be achieved. So that will be decided by the outcome-based curriculum. And then we also need to understand that how to make the student achieve the outcome. So that will be defined by the outcome-based learning and teaching process. So here you need to focus more on learning teaching. Now we are not saying teaching learn. And then once the teaching learning or learning teaching happened, so next thing which is important is how you measure the performance of the student, or how to measure what the student has achieved. So that will be done by outcome-based assessment. And this is how the process flow of outcome-based education for the outcome-based accreditation will be followed in all the institutions across the globe. So when I say outcome-based education or the outcome-based engineering education, the important is that it's not what we teach, it's what you learn. So whenever we talk about the student, we may be teaching the student for 30 hours or 40 hours, depending upon the workload that we have. The important is not what you have taught for that 30 hours or 40 hours. It is very much important that what the student has learned in those 30 hours or 40 hours. So the focus of outcome-based education is not on the teaching, but the focus of outcome-based education is on learning. So in nutshell, it is a learner-centric approach to tertiary education, and this is what has been focused upon when we have implemented the outcome-based education. So when we say outcome-based education, so this is a result-oriented model, and we will have measurable goals to the students. And this is basically a student-centric approach or student-centered approach. When we say outcome-based education, so there are deficiencies that we need to understand, which are there with the traditional education systems. So and why we need to go for the outcome-based education, because the outcome-based education provides the students with a learning environment with little attention to whether or not the students will ever learn the material. So students are given grades and rankings compared to each other. The students become the exam oriented or GPA oriented. So that we need to look into whether we have to have a focus of the student on the exam orientation, or whether the student should able to achieve some abilities which are required. So graduates are not completely prepared for the workforce, because if you are only having the exam oriented system or CGPA oriented systems, the students may not be prepared for the workforce to be entered into the organization. So lack of emphasis on the soft skills required for the jobs. You go into any organization and you have any skill sets, or you are graduate from the any field, you need to understand that we need to have the interpersonal skills, the communication skill, analytical skills, and the working attitude, which are the playing the most important role irrespective of the field in which you are studying. So why OB and why exam not result is the most important consideration by employer. So there was one survey which was conducted, and they have taken the different views of the people, and based on that, they observed that the communication, if you see on this slide, the communication was having the most important. And what was the importance for the GPA or CGPA is 3 or better is 3.68. If you see the ranking of these required skill sets or required abilities, you will find the exam marks are the least important as compared to what was there with the communication skills and those things. So once you get into some organization and you are facing the interview, nobody will be more interested nowadays on the what marks you have achieved or what the CGPA have achieved, but rather we'll be having a focus on the so if you see what is the skills versus examination results in the recruitment process of any organization, the skills are the important things for the selection and job performance. If you see examination results, these are only meant for the eligibility. So you might have seen that number of standard and times the students get the shortlisted for the interviews, and when they get shortlisted, there is a criteria, maybe say 7 CGPA or 70% of the marks, or 6 CGPA or 60% of the marks. So that will be the initial eligibility criteria. Once the students are in, so no recruiter will look into whether the student has achieved 80%, 90%, or 95%. What the recruiter will focus on will be the performance of the student in the interview, and what type of skill sets or the abilities the student will have. Right, so he or she will try to judge what are the problem solving abilities the student will have, what type of teamwork or the teamwork related abilities the student will have, and what is the communication. When we talk about the examination, we only talk about the exam scores and mark sheets and the CGPA of the students. So these marks open the door, but skills decide who walks through it and how far they go. So this thing is, and it is most important from the outcome-based education point of view. Your marks are only a way to open the door, but if you really want to enter into an organization, the skills will decide who will walk into that organization and how far they will go. Right. So if you see the numbers of 2026, so the way in which the jobs are being identified are changing, and nowadays people talks about the different types of hard skills and the soft skills which are required as an employee. So if you see the hard skills, so there may be some technical skills, domain specific skills, and AI, that is artificial intelligence related literacy. And if you talk about the soft skills, which the companies are looking for, are the communication skills, problem solving skills, and these are the different types of important skills which needs to be uh, uh, expert to have the student should get the expertise in those skill sets. So what is the focus of OB, or what are the benefits of OB? So this OB addresses following questions. What do we want the students to have or be able to do? How can the best help students to achieve it? How we can help the students? How will we know whether the students have achieved this, and how do we close the loop for further improvement? So these are the four important 1W and 3H which we need to address when we are teaching something. So whenever we are teaching a course, we need to understand that what the students will be able to do in that course, right? And how we can help the student to achieve that is again the second question. And uh, to know how whether the students have achieved it or not and how it is achieved, we need some assessment tools. And based on the assessment that we have performed, we are trying to get the attainment of that, and we'll try to go for the loop, closing the loop further, and how the improvement for strategies has to be incorporated in that. So the benefits of OB, so this is more directed and more coherent in curriculum. So graduates will be more relevant to industry and other stakeholders. So there should be a continuous quality improvements is in place, and these are the main benefits. It is will have a clarity, so clarity about the clear expectations. So we will have a flexibility. So in that we'll have a clear sense of what needs to be accomplished, and accordingly the instructions will be able to structure their lessons according to the student's need, not what the teacher knows. So we need to have a comparison. So we can compare across the individuals, class, batch, program, and institute levels. And there should be also importance of the environment. The students are expected to do their own learning. Increase student involvement allows them to feel responsible for their own learning, and they should learn more through these individual learnings. So when we say OB, what are the expectations from the students? The students are expected to be able to do more challenging tasks other than memorize and reproduce what was taught. So in the outcome-based education, we are not focusing on the memorization techniques, but rather we are trying to focus on the better or the things which the student could able to do. The student should able to write project proposals, complete the projects, analyze the case studies, give case presentations, show their abilities to think, question, research, and make decisions based on their findings. So be more creative, ability to analyze and synthesize the information. So ability to plan and organize the task, able to work in teams as a community or entrepreneur service teams to propose the solutions to problems and market their solutions. So these are some of the expectations that we'll have in case of outcome-based education. So if you see the plan, do, check, act, which was the PDCA cycle, and these are the important things which you need to understand, right? So when we say outcomes, so outcomes will be in terms of the mission, the POs, PLOs, or CLOs. So that is program level outcomes and the course level outcomes. And PO is for program educational objectives. And based on the outcomes that we'll have, we have some we plan this thing with the help of outcomes that we have, with the help of teaching learning process, which consists of the pedagogies, the course syllabus, the learning process, and assessment. We do the things. And based on that, again, we'll do the assessment, which is the checking. In that, we have the course, we'll have the program, and we'll have university, which are involved in the assessment process. And based on that, we see that what has been achieved. And based on what has been achieved, we'll have the learning outcomes, we'll have the learning assessment, we'll have the learning activities. And based on that, the improvements will be happening. And this cycle will continue when we talk about the outcome-based education. So when we compare between the outcome-based education and the traditional education, so we need to understand how the traditional education was going on or has been used. So there was different things, like there was input. The input consists of the teaching staff, the curriculum, labs, and other resources. The process consists of the teaching learning process. And based on the teaching input and the process that you have, you will have the students at graduation. And how this teaching, learning, and inputs are being taken care of. So the assessment will be mainly consist of the examinations. It is consists of the tests. It is consists of the assignments. And this is the type of quality control from the teaching evaluations. And based on that, the students will get graduated from the organization or the institute. So this was the focus of traditional education system, which was talking only on the processes as well as the inputs. And then we shifted to the outcome-based education. So in the outcome-based education, we shift from measuring the input and processes to include the measuring output, so that output will be in terms of the outcome. So in this also, you have the inputs in the term of teaching staff, curriculum, labs, and the other resources. And again, you have the teaching process. Along with that, when we talk about the students at the graduation, so these are the important things which we need to understand. So those important things are the POs, PSOs, and COs. And if you if you talk about the short term for the students who are getting graduated, along with that, we also need to ensure that for the long term benefits, the student also need to achieve the program educational outcomes or the program educational objectives. And the graduates, when we talk about the program educational objectives, the graduates to fulfill the stakeholder satisfaction. Whenever the student will get into the organization or any company, in that case, what is important that the company will have different stakeholders. There will be stakeholders as the employers, the industry advisors, the academic staff, public, parents, and students and alumni. So these are the different stakeholders. So these stakeholders has to be satisfied with the performance of the graduates which are getting passed out. So if you see how the things are being happening, so the assessment is done by exam, test, and assignments. So assessment of the teaching staff, the lecture and material flow results and student capabilities will be judged by the short-term and long-term outcomes. So those are also based on the lab interviews and the exit survey. So here we'll have more focus on the thinking projects with analysis. And in all these cases, if you are to develop some curriculums, we have to take the feedback from the industries, we have to take the feedback from the alumni and other stakeholders, which are the important part of the curriculum development. And here it is clear continuous improvement step, which is need to be followed. So if you see comparison, so the traditional approach was the learner specific, but it is the passive learners which are talked about. In case of OB, it is active learners. So in traditional approach, the approach is exam driven. In case of outcome-based educations, learner are assessed on ongoing basis. In traditional approach, we are more of encouraging the rote learning or memorization, whereas in outcome-based education, we will be more focusing on the critical thinking, reasoning, reflection, and action are encouraged. So here the syllabus contents are being divided into subjects. Here in OBG, the content is integrated and learning is relevant and connected to the real life situations. So when the learning happens in the traditional way, so the learning is through the textbook, worksheet bound and teacher centered. Whereas if I say OB, so OB talks about the learning is a learner centered. The teacher facilitates and constantly applies the group work, teamwork to consolidate the new approach. So this thing is very, very important when I talks about the outcome-based education. In the traditional education, the teacher sees the syllabus as rigid and non-negotiable, whereas in the case of outcome-based education, the learning programs are seen as guides that allow teachers to be innovative and creative in designing their own programs. And in case of traditional education, you'll find the teachers are responsible for learning and motivation, which depends upon the personality of the teacher. In case of outcome-based education, will have learners to take the responsibility for their own learning and are motivated by feedback, affirmation of their work. So in nutshell, if you see the outcome-based education, which is being practiced nowadays, will be having more advantage as it is a learner-centric approach, and it is not the approach which is only focusing on the rote learning or recalling from the student what has been studied by the student, but here we'll be having a more focus in which the student will be the abilities related to the critical thinking, reasoning, reflections has to be get developed. Right. So when we say the outcome-based education, we need to understand that how the implementation will be there. So we need to define the smart outcomes. So this smart outcomes will be the specific outcomes should be there. It should be measurable outcomes. It should be achievable outcomes, right? And it should we should able to get it in the required timeline and with the required resources. And when we say we have the outcomes, we have to align the curriculum, all the courses content and activities with the predefined exit outcomes. And we need to do the continuous assessment. So shift to performance-based task and the formative feedback loops. So if you see what is the implementation challenges, because though we say the outcome-based education is very good, it is very much required. But there are some challenges, like there is a assessment challenge. The assessment challenge is around about 80%, in which the percentage of studies citing the continuous assessment and feedback as a major implementation hurdle. Because whenever we talk about the outcome-based education, we are expecting that there should be a continuous assessment. In our traditional education system, mostly we'll have only end semester examination, in which the student has to perform in the theory examination, and based on that the evaluation is done. When we talk about the outcome-based education, we expect that the entire weightage is not to be given to the final examination, but there may be some weightage which will be given to the in-semester evaluations in terms of test or the assignments that you are giving to the students. But that focus has to be changed. And another important thing which is challenging is the mindset has to be shifted, because the percentage of studies reporting cultural change and educator mindset as a primary challenge for the implementation of the outcome-based educations. So when we say outcomes, there are different outcomes which we are addressing. So those outcomes are the vision and mission statement, the program educational objectives, the program outcomes, the program specific outcomes, and the course outcomes. So these are the different outcomes we are expecting. It starts with the defining the vision and mission of the institute, and then it will go to program educational objectives, which the student needs to achieve after getting graduated for 3 to 4 years after the graduation year. So after that, the program educational objectives can be assessed. But this program outcomes, the program specific outcomes has to be achieved at every stage, and you have also need to assess the final assessment or the final attainment of the program outcomes. Along with that, we also need to look into the course outcomes, which are there for every course, and that is one of the most important input that you will have. So all these are interrelated and complement to each other. So it is not the case that the mission and vision will be a separate entity, POs are the separate entities. But if you see here, there is a downward arrow as well as upward arrow. So we'll see that what is the downward and upward arrow in the next slides. So when we say the outcomes, so the outcomes till program outcomes are the short-term outcomes which we need to achieve till the student gets graduated from the organization or the institute. Whereas there are some long range or the long-term outcomes, the outcomes will be in terms of program educational objectives, the vision mission of the institute are the long range outcomes. So when we say the outcome-based education, we also need to look into the program objectives, the program outcomes, the program-specific outcomes, and learning outcomes of the course. And you will have a sort of PDCA cycle, which will be talking about the assessment, analyze, and CQI, which is a continuous quality improvement, and then you go to the learning outcomes. So if you are teaching some course and you have come up with some learning outcomes during assessment and analysis, you will get the idea that we need to make some changes into our learning outcomes. In some cases, you may come across a situation where you need to change your assessment tools. You may come across a situation where you need to change the weightages of the different types of assessments that we have finalized. So based on that, we will find that this particular loop will continue. So that will be a continuous improvement loop, which will be happening, and again it will go back to the learning outcomes of the courses, and based on that, the cycle will continue. So so this already we have talked about, that is PDCA cycle. Now we have studied what is the role of students, and along with that, now we'll understand what is the role of teachers. So when we say roles of teachers, the teacher has to review the POs, PSOs, and POs course structure and syllabi. So teach the relevant engineering, maths, and other relevant courses. Conduct the relevant tutorials and laboratory practical sessions. Give appropriate guide on the assignments and projects. So when I say assignment, it does not mean writing something on the paper. So assignments may be anything. It can be case studies, it can be presentations, it can be some sort of quiz, or it can be anything depending upon the choice of the teacher. So the teacher has to do, or the teacher has to guide on the assignments and projects that are being undertaken. Conduct the empirical measurements of program outcomes. And based on that, the teacher has to prepare the recommendation. So these are the different roles the teacher has to look into when we talk about the outcome-based education. And the teacher role has
कोणता
now
नंबर
been-
होता की हो आला तर ठीक आहे ना फोन आला तर त्याला म्हणलं दे म्हणलं माझ्याकडे आणून काय अडचण नाही ते म्हणजे तुमचा ऍड्रेस कुठे आहे म्हणजे इथे आंबड चौकशी तिथे आल्यावर फोन करतो पुन्हा पुन्हा फोनच नाही केला असं आहे का
So I think there is some noise which is coming up. So hello. Now the teacher role has been shifted to the facilitator. It is not only the role of teacher, but now the education system with the outcome-based education, we also need to look into the student-centered pedagogy and how we can go for the flipped classroom, the project-based learning. So these are the innovative teaching learning methods that we need to look into, and how we can implement these methods into the education. So that we have to look into. And there should be a continuous improvement using the data from the assessments to redefine or refine the teaching strategies and curriculum relevance. So if you are going through some course and then you observe that the teaching method that I am using is not is successful in getting the learning of the student, so you also need to look into the feedback of the student you need to understand that why the student could not able to learn. Based on that, you have to refine your teaching methodology. And based on that, you need to, again, you need to check whether the methodology that I have adopted for the teaching learning is useful for the student for the learning point of view or not, and this continues. So what the teacher has to do, the teacher has to have an actionable item where the teacher training is important. Supporting the educators to the difficult transition from the lectures to the learning environments. So they have to have a pedagogical support in which they have to invest in the training, focused on designing the performance-based assessment and providing the feedback. So there should be a shift in the mindset, which will address the cultural resistance by highlighting the long-term benefits of the student success. So when we talk about the instructional flexibility, so when the student needs to be the talk or the teaching has to be delivered, so we need to understand that we have to cater to the diverse student needs through the varied and interactive teaching methods. So there are different diverse strategies which we need to follow, in which we have to employ the project-based learning to promote the active engagement and real-world skills. So if you inform or if you instruct the student to perform something, there is a possibility that the students will have a better understanding of the course. And then there will be a personalized learning in which the adapt the instruction to the individual learning styles and speed to ensure that the universal success will be happening. So we'll also need to have the robust assessment systems. So moving from one-off examinations to the continuous cycle of evaluation and constructive feedback. So it should be an ongoing evaluation that will be in the terms of formative assessments to identify whether the student are really learning or not. And then based on that, we need to identify the learning gaps. And as per the learning gaps that we'll have, we need to adjust the instructions, the delivery instructions to the students. So it may be possible that to one batch of students, you will get very good learning, or the students of that batch will have very good learning. And whereas you will find you will have the same teaching style to the other batch of students. So in that case, you may not able to get the same responses from the students. So what we need to understand is that the batch one student which we have taught are the same as batch 2 students. So we need to do the analysis, and accordingly we have to change the teaching methodology or the teaching mechanism for the students. The performance task, so the focus on tasks that require students to apply the knowledge rather than just recall it. So when you are adopting the outcome-based education, a strategic assessment of the internal and external factors influencing the outcome-based education success has to be taken care of. So when we talk about the strengths, we should have clear goals, student focus, and it should be high engagement. So when we talk about the weaknesses, we also need to see that there will be a high admin burden, and there will be a complex assessment design. When we talk about the opportunities, we also need to see that there is a global accreditation and the industry alignment. So these are the important things or the opportunities that we have. And what is nowadays important is that if your student is accredited, then or the student has get graduated from the accredited institute, then only the student, some of the countries are allowing the student to get employment in their own countries. So if the student could not able to, a student have not passed out from the institutes which are uh, being not accredited, in that case, there may be possibilities that the student may not get good jobs. Even if the student is going for higher studies, the institutes which are admitting the student, so they also need to know that what is the grades or what are the accreditation that has been achieved by the institute from which the student has graduated. So so these are the opportunities that the students will have. And there are resistances. So the first resistance for any adoption is the resistance to change, because whenever we say that we are changing from our traditional outcome based model to, or sorry, the traditional input output model to the outcome based model. So at that time we also need to see that the faculty members and the students are reluctant to adopt the new model. So any model which we will come across, it is always our mindset which says that why to go for new models. Already we are convergent with the input output model, then why to go for new model, right? And there may be possibly that the because of as it is a new model, there is a resource scarcity also might be there. So nowadays we talk about the role of technology, because whenever we talk about the teaching learning process or learning teaching process, leveraging the digital tools to facilitate the outcome mapping and automated data tracking is important. So in case of outcome based education, the automated tracking is important, so that the
आलेत सर आले
technology the
नाही माहिती
technology
मला.
the technology aids in outcome mapping and automated assessments to reduce the administration burden. So there has to be a data-led improvement, collecting the long-term data for continuous improvement of the educational programs. And we also need to see that how we can collect the long-term data for continuous improvement of the educational programs. And we need to prepare the graduates to the workforce, because what OB says, the skills that we have inculcating among the graduate has to make the graduates job ready and capable of navigating evolving technologies. There should be holistic development of the students, in which beyond academics, grades, the outcome-based education aims at so the outcome-based education will be aims at lifelong learning and the professional success. So when we are developing the sustainable outcome-based education systems, we also need to understand that what are the important stakeholders which we need to take into consideration whenever we talk about the ecosystem of outcome-based education. So in that case, the industry is one of the most important stakeholder from which you need to take the feedback. So in other cases, if you are not from the engineering field, there may be even other graduates also go to industry, whether it is a BA student, BCom student, or BSc student, or BTech student. But if you are so if the students are working as an employee in different organizations, we can treat that as an industry, and that industry has to provide the feedback on the necessary skills. For example, if I want to apply for the job of receptionist in some organization, so I have to ensure that what are the skill sets required as a receptionist. So if I'm applying the job role of, say, manager in some organization, so I need to understand that what are the requirements of the manager in that organization. If I want to apply as a cook, I need to understand that what type of skill sets are required as a cook. So irrespective of type of industry, we need to ensure that the feedback has to be provided so that the necessary skills and what are the evolving job market trends that needs to be understood. And based on that, you need to update your curricula, or you need to redesign your curricula which will satisfy the requirements of the industry. Along with that, we also have the educators which will be facilitating the learning and designing the outcome-based oriented assessments, and the students who are the again important stakeholders. So they need to take the ownership of their own learning journey. Along with that, they also need to ensure that they have achieved the mastery in the required skill sets. Right. So these are some more roles of the students. So they should know the required program outcomes and the program objectives. They should able to review the learning outcomes at the beginning of this semester. This gives you an idea of the knowledge and skills expected from the particular case. So be more proactive, demonstrate through the assessment methods, attain the program outcomes, and give the constructive feedback, because giving the feedback is very, very important. So if you see the administrative systems for the implementation of our outcome-based education system, this is generally the flow that we have. So in that particular flow, you will observe that the first role will be of course coordinator, who is basically teaching the course, or if you have more than one teachers who are teaching the same course, in that case, the one person who may be the uh, most expert in that course may be treated as a course coordinator, and others may be called as a course teachers. So the first role which comes for the course is the course coordinator, who will be involved into all the processes, right from the deciding upon the course outcomes, the course designing the course curricula, and also you need to ensure the you use the different assessment tools, and then also need to look into the course attainment levels and those things. Along with that, there is a another role called as a module coordinator. So this depends upon if your program or the branch or the uh, this thing will have different modules, then only this will be applicable. And then there will be a program coordinator. For example, BA in English may have called as a program coordinator, or BA in psychology may have another program coordinator. BTech in mechanical engineering may have a program coordinator who is looking after the entire program. Along with that, frequently we need to do the assessment, different formats, different types of course outcomes, different types of outcomes that we need to measure. So we also need to ensure that whatever the assessment that we carry out will ensure all the course outcomes are being attained. They also need to assess what type of tools to be used for the assessment. They also need to look into what type of question papers are set as per the requirement. So all this will be assessed by the committee called as a program assessment committee. And above that, there will be a departmental advisory board, which will give you the advices pertaining to the what should be the curricula, whether there will be requirement of change of the curricula, and all those questions will be answered by the departmental advisory committee. And above that, we will have the institutional level uh, IQAC, which is called as the Internal Quality Assurance Cell. So this is generally the hierarchical structure which is followed from bottom to top, basically, for the implementation of outcome-based education. And these are the different roles and responsibilities that every individual will have. So the course coordinators will have a role of defining course outcomes, aligning it with the teaching and assessment methods, map the course outcomes with the POs and PSOs, and then analyze the performance. Along with that, the module coordinator will have a role of coordinating with the outcomes of different courses, ensure the consistency in the module, then review the assessment and results, and advise the course coordinators for the various types of courses. Along with that, the program coordinator is again important element, which has a role of developing the PO, that is program outcomes, the program educational objectives, and program specific outcomes for a program, align the courses with the program outcomes, oversee the overall program delivery, and compile and interpret the results. So, so the program coordinator has to deliver the important roles at the program level with ensure that all the courses which are there in the programs will be achieving or attaining the program outcomes or the program specific outcomes. There is also a program assessment committee. So this program assessment committee will have a role to review the course, to review the or to review the modules, to review the program outcome, And then based on that, they also need to evaluate the direct and indirect assessment methods. And they need to conduct the quality improvement or continuous quality improvement meetings. Along with that, there is also a departmental advisory board. So the departmental advisory board will provide the industry and academic expertise, because there are different stakeholders which are the part of the departmental advisory board. So those may be from the academia, those may be from industry, those may be from research organizations. And these people who are from the different entities or different types of organizations will provide the expertise for the different aspects of the educational systems. They monitor and guide program or department direction. So they ensure that the relevance and the quality of curriculum has been maintained. And the apex body of assessing, or rather ensuring or assuring the quality of education, is the IQAC. So in IQAC, what we need to do is we need to ensure that the OB practices are being followed. We also need to monitor the CO, PO, and PSO attainment, and conduct the internal audits and quality checks, so that whether all the processes which are being defined by the accreditation agencies are being practiced or not. So when we see general philosophy of outcome-based education, when we say the development, so development will start from the top to bottom. And when we say attainment, attainment will start from bottom to top. So if you see any institute, they start with the vision, mission, and objective statement. So based on that, we also need to define the program outcomes depending upon the type of program you are offering, and the program specific outcomes depending upon the specific programs that is offered. So once that is done, you also need to define the course outcomes, right? And this will be the way in which the different types of outcomes has been defined. And when we say attainment, attainment goes from bottom to top. The design happens from the top to bottom, whereas the attainment happens from the bottom to top. In this case, you will find that the course outcomes are the bottom of the entire process, and based on the course outcomes that you achieve the program outcomes, and based on the program outcomes and the program specific outcomes you achieve, you will also look into what is the vision, mission, and what is the vision of the institute, and whether we are going in the right direction or not. That also we need to assess. Right? So this is called as academic pyramid, which starts with the vision, mission, and the objectives. This may be program educational objectives, and then we talk about the POs and PSOs, and then we talk about the course outcomes. Okay, so the first thing which is there in the outcome-based education is the program outcomes, right? So basically, program outcomes will talk about what knowledge, skills, and attitude a graduate should have at the time of graduation. So earlier also we came across these words. So these three words are very, very important from the point of view of understanding or achieving the program outcomes. The first thing is the knowledge, second thing is the skill, and third thing is the attitude. So while there is no agency which has formally defined POs, the general education 3-year degree programs in India, so POs of all professional courses are aligned with the engineering or other professional programs. So those are aligned with the national level agencies like NBA. And there is no separate requirements of designing the program outcomes. Whereas other than engineering, most of the fields, some are already there with the pharmacy and those, but with other fields, there is no program outcomes which has been defined, but you have to design your own way of doing that. And most important thing, which I have also told you earlier, that the program outcomes are not specific to any discipline. So I will not say that the program outcome is BTech mechanical, but I will rather say these are the program outcomes only for the BTech. Whether the student is from BTech Mechanical or whether the student is from BTech Civil, that does not make any sense. But any student who is engineer has to achieve these program outcomes. So as I have told you, so these are related to the skills, knowledge, analytical abilities, attitude, and behavior that students acquire through the program at the end of 3 or 4 or 5 years program. So depending upon the type of program. So POs are the general higher education programs should have been identified by the university, autonomous college offering their 3-year programs. So when we say the process, because whenever it is fine that if you are into the engineering domain or pharmacy domain, the program outcomes are being defined by the apex bodies. But when we say we want to formulate it at our end, so in those cases, you will find that this is the process which is being followed. So first, the institute vision and mission statement is being prepared. Along with that, the department vision and mission statement is prepared. So once this is done, so the department has to formulate a group of faculty members, of senior faculty members especially, and they have been given a task of drafting the version of POs. So once the draft version of the POs is ready, then this draft version is sent to the different stakeholders. Those different stakeholders may be the alumni, faculty, industry, professional bodies, or program coordinators. And based on the sharing of your program outcomes to these different entities, the views are collected. So if anybody will provide the view, so that view will be recorded, and based on that view, the further review and analysis is done, and that analysis is being monitored by the program assessment committee. Once the review and analysis are done, so if there are changes to be done, so those changes are being done. And if there are no changes, in that case, you'll find we need to accept that, and then we need to freeze the POs. So this is general process which is being followed across the globe, or especially in India, for the formulation of program outcomes. And generally, the NAC or NBA experts, number of times they will ask you about the process, because every individual in the organization should have the knowledge of the process which is being followed for the achievement of the program outcomes. So, as I have told you that the NBA has come up with something called as the program outcomes. So when the NBA started the program outcomes, so there are 12 program outcomes which NBA has decided. And in initial years, when the NBA became mandatory for the academic institutes, especially the engineering institutes, at that time, so only the program outcomes were taken into considerations, and those were formulated by the people who are into a particular specific field. And then the focus was shifted, and then they say that the program outcomes should be general, and it should not be specific to any branch. And they come up with the 12 graduate attributes, and those 12 attributes are mapped to the program outcomes. So initially, directly the program or the educational or the graduate attributes that has been decided by the Washington Accord, the same will be taken care of by the Indian government for the accreditation purpose. So when the program outcomes were implemented, so again the Washington Accord has made some changes into those program outcomes, and then they reduced the graduate attributes from 12 to 11. And with that change, the government of India also done the changes, and they have changed their program outcomes from 10 to 9. And along with that, when the program outcomes have been defined, so one important thing which happened is that, because whenever we see or go through the definition of program outcome 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it was not mentioned that what should be the depth level through which we have to undergo so that what are the program outcomes that has been defined, so those has been achieved. And what happened, the difficulty level of program outcomes was not taken care of. And when the graduates are being taught with different courses, so there was no proper guidelines to what depth the student should be taught. So to improve upon that understanding, the NBA has recently in July 2025 has come up with something called as a knowledge and attitude profile. And if you go through this knowledge and attitude profile, you will find that this knowledge and attitude profile will provide you the guidelines to extent of what or to what extent you have to achieve the particular program outcomes. And this knowledge and attitude profile, there are 9. So number 1 talks about the natural and social sciences. Number 2 talks about the mathematics and computing. Number 3 talks about the fundamentals of engineering. Level the 4 profile 4 talks about the engineering specifications. The 5 talks about the sustainable engineering. 6 talks about the engineering and knowledge. The 7 talks about the so this particular there is some repetitions as well, and then the 7 so this talks about the engineering and society, the research and critical thinking, and the ethics and inclusivity. So if you see this WK1, so the first will be social sciences and the natural sciences, and then we talked about the mathematics and those things, and then we talked about the WK3 in the engineering fundamentals, and WK4 about the engineering specialist knowledge, and then the knowledge about the environmental things, and the knowledge about the engineering practices, the knowledge of engineering toward the society, because the engineer not to only think about the jobs, but also need to think about the society and how engineers can solve the problems. And then WK8 talks about the engagement with the selected knowledge in the current research literature, and WK9 talks about the ethics, because ethics is also one of the most important thing that you need to look into. And then the program outcomes has come, and there are 12 program outcomes initially was there, and with the Washington Accord, the program outcomes has been reduced to 11. And if you see how the program outcomes, so these program outcomes are also mapped with the knowledge and attitude profile, and you can see that the engineering knowledge will have the specifically mapping of WK1 to WK4. The problem analysis, which is WPO number 2, so it is having a mapping with WK1 to WK4. Whereas if you go through the third outcome, that is design and development of the solutions, so it is mapped with the WK5. If you see WK5, so WK5 talks about the knowledge. It talks about the environmental impact. So here we have tried to map it with the WK5. So if you go to WK4, PO4, which talks about the conduct investigation and complex problems, so it is mapped with the WK8. The PO5 maps with the WK2 and WK6. PO6 maps with WK1, WK5, and WK7. Whereas the ethics, which is talking about the applying the ethical principles, get mapped with the WK9. And this PO8, which is talking about the individuals and collaborative teamwork, and PO9 talks about the communication. So this is not getting mapped with other things. Whereas PO10, so in PO10, PO10 talks about the project management and finance, and the PO11 talks about the lifelong learning, which is mapped with the WK8. So these are the program outcomes of the Bachelor of Technology or Bachelor of Engineering. But along with that, you will there are some sample program outcomes which is being demonstrated over here. So those are for the Bachelor of Science. So it can range of up to 6. There are POs for the Bachelor of Commerce, which talks about how we can able to apply or build the skill sets related to the accountancy, finance, management. And then other POs talks about the analytical abilities. Some POs talks about the unique ability to manage the accounts. Some talks about to build the life skills through the value-based education. And PO5 talks about the how the students will get the competitive edge in the market or the job market by equipping themselves with the financial and management accounting techniques. So likewise, the BA, that is Bachelor of Arts, also have some program outcomes which are being defined. Okay, so this all talks about the program outcomes which are general for the entire programs in that particular domain. If it is a B or BTech, so all the POs for the BTech are same, irrespective of branch of study. If it is a BA, BCom, BSc, irrespective of specific or specializations, so we talk about the program outcomes. So next thing which is coming into picture is the program specific outcomes. So these program specific outcomes are specific to a program, and the program specific outcomes characterize the specificity or the specificity of the program, core of the program. So these POs or PSOs are generally 2 to 4 in numbers. So curriculum of the program is derived from the POs and PSOs. So some of the courses are which we study are aligned with both. They are being mapped with both POs as well as PSOs. So the PSOs should imply that all the core courses of the program, because the course or the program that you will have may have different types of courses. And out of that, if you are talking about the core course, then you have to look into the program specific outcomes. Program specific outcomes should capture the scope of streams of the program. And there should not be any curricular gaps which are present in the PSOs. So PSO statement should not use the words like such as, etc., various. So these are the general words which are being followed by the number of people. But we need to ensure that the PSO statements that we use should not have these words which are vague words. So these words will not convey any type of meetings. So when we say structure, so in case of structure, so the PSO statement which we define should start with one or more action verbs. So the action verbs may be the formulate, specify, conceive, select, analyze, determine, etc. The action verbs should be followed by clearly identify objects related only to the program of concern, and if required by the conditions under which the actions have to be performed. So this is how you could able to define the program specific outcome, in which every program specific outcome starts with the action verb, and then you need to identify what are the identified objects of that program and under which conditions that has been formulated or performed. So based on that, you will define the program specific outcomes. And so when I talk about the program specific outcomes, so these program specific outcomes should not be POs reworded in the context of the discipline of the program. So this thing is very, very important. So when I say PSO should be specific to the program of study, but this should not be the reworded statements of the program outcomes. PSO statement should not be written to represent the electives. So when I talk about the program specific outcomes, I will only talk about the core courses that we study. So these are some sample PSOs of BSc Zoology. So this can be ranging from 2 to 4. So these are the PSOs for the BA Economics. Okay, so we were talking about the academic pyramid. In that we talked about the program outcomes and we talked about the program specific outcomes. So below that level, if you go through that, so we'll have a learning outcomes. So this Learning outcomes will be the outcomes which are important from the point of view of the course. Okay, so Dr. Kunal, can we take a 5-minute break?
ब्रेक घ्या सर एक.
So we'll have 5 minutes break and then we'll
कोणाला
continue.
नाही येत, पण एक ब्रेक ठेवा सर.
Okay, so we'll have 5 minutes break and then we'll
Okay.
continue. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we'll join again at 4:45, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll start. It's 4:45. So
Yes,
till
sir.
date, till date, whatever we have studied or look into was related to the outcome-based education. Then we try to understand what is the academic pyramid and how we are, what is the role of teachers, what is the role of students, and then what is how we can be a facilitator, and then what are the different course outcome levels. So specifically the program outcomes, program specific outcomes. And this is the most important from the point of view of teacher, because program specific outcomes or program outcomes are generally designed, either they are given by the accreditation agencies or maybe designed by a group of teachers, or there will be a committee which will be looking into designing those things. But the course outcomes or the learning outcomes are the things which are very, very important from the teacher's point of view, because the individual teacher has to frame those course outcomes. And this is basically, if you see the academic pyramid, so the learning outcomes are the at the foundation. If you go through the academic pyramid that we have seen earlier, so in that you'll find that this course outcomes are here, and your vision, mission, and objectives are here, right? So when we see, when we go for design or development, we go like this. And when we go for implementation, we go like this, right? And in this case, if you go through the course outcomes, and if you see this academic pyramid, so these are at the bottom. So, and this basically forms the foundation of your entire pyramid. So if you are not able to define it properly over here, so you cannot achieve this. So that's why designing the course outcomes is one of the most important thing that you need to understand. So what these course outcomes or learning outcomes say, so these are basically the statements of what a learner is expected to know, understand, or able to demonstrate after completion of a process of learning. Process of learning may mean that you are conducting a course of say 30 hours. After completing the 30-hour course, so what is the student or what the learner is expected to know, or what the learner will expected to demonstrate as a outcome of that particular course. So they can be 6 plus or minus 2 for the courses with 2 to 4 credits. So depending upon what the teacher may want to design, so he or she may design 6 plus minus 2. That does mean 4 to 8 number of course outcomes for the course which are ranging from 2 to 4 credits. So if you have 2 credit course, you can have the course outcomes in the 4 quantities, and if you have 4 credit course, it can be 6 to 8. And if you are having the higher credit courses of 5 to 6 credits, in that case, it can be 8 plus minus 2. Means it is ranging from 4 to 10, depending upon the credits which are given to the course. So the process of learning in this case happens through either a lecture, either through a module, or a course or an entire program. So the course outcomes has to be learner centric. So learner centric does mean what a learner has achieved, and not the teacher centric, which says that rather than the intentions of the teacher. So whenever we are talking about the CO and this thing, we also need to ensure that whether these are teacher centric or whether these are the learner centric. So whenever we say the learning experiences, we also need to see that what are our intended learning outcomes, what are the activities which are involved for the learning those particular or to achieve that particular learning outcomes, and what is the process or what is the assessment that we are carry out so that the outcomes is being achieved. And this is again a continuous cycle. We keep on continuously evaluating our outcomes, and based on that we make the improvements in the outcomes, or we try to fill up the gaps. So a course outcomes is the one of the most important thing in the academic pyramid, and it is a subset of program outcomes and program specific outcomes. So outcomes of course and instructional units can be more conveniently written. So if there is a well accepted taxonomy of learning. So to write the course outcomes, we also need to understand that there should be a taxonomy of learning. So it is desirable to have a taxonomy so that is applicable to the learning outcomes, assessment, and teaching. So outcome statement should be have a well-defined structure. And for that, we need to understand that how learning happens. So how to spell out the statements for this? Understanding of how a learner learns is important before we start defining the course outcomes. So the example which I have quoted earlier also, for example, if you are teaching a course on communication skill, so we need to understand that how the learner is learning, whether the learner is learning through the theory classes more or whether the learner is learning through the practical classes. If I want to swim, whether I should have a theory of 20 hours, which will be defining the technical terminology of swimming as well as the terminology related to the water. So whether I should have to define the things in that term in which the learner will able to understand that what are the mechanisms of learning swimming or what types of swimming are there and what are the different types of water are there. So whether that we are interested in or whether we are interested into learning outcome stating that the learner or the learning course for the swimming which we are designing is the outcome of that will be the learner should able to swim in the swimming tank or learner should able to swim in the river. So based on what learning you are expecting from the learner, based on that you need to decide the learning. So there are different psychologists and the educationalists which have defined different like the Bloom's, Dave and Simpsons. Few of them have defined the learning domains and they say that the learning is happening through three domains major. So these three domains are the cognitive domain, the affective domain, and the psychomotor domain. So if you see the body parts, so the cognitive domain is the head, and cognitive domain talks about the thinking and intellectual means, and the cognitive domain talks about the knowledge. When we say affective domain, so this is talks about the heart. So this talks about the feelings and the emotional areas. And when we say the psychomotor domain, so the psychomotor domain talks about the hands. So it talks about doing and performing the task. So you will have any course, so that course will either have a cognitive domain, affective domain, psychomotor domain, or it can be a combination of two domains, or it can be combination of three domains. So depending upon what type of course you are designing, so based on that, these three domains will come into picture by some or the other means. So some are maybe in some course you will have more weightage which is given to the cognitive domain and some weightage for the other domains. There may be courses where the psychomotor domain is having a dominance and other domains are not. So the first domain is the cognitive domain or the knowledge domain. So this domain will talk about what do you want your graduates to know and think. There is affective domain which talks about the attitude. So this talks about what do you want your graduates to care about. And there is a third domain called as a psychomotor domain or the so in this particular domain, it talks about what do you want your graduates to be able to do. Right, so these three domains are the most important domains. So we'll go through the domains one by one. So some of you may have idea about these domains already, but we'll quickly go through these domains. So the first domain which is important and which is very widely used across all the places is the cognitive domain. So, and cognitive domain is defined by the Bloom's. So Bloom has defined a taxonomy, and the learning associated with the brain goes into 6 hierarchical levels closely related with the higher and higher level of thinking process. So each level in the Bloom's taxonomy depends upon the student's ability at that level and levels below it. That does mean that if the student have achieved 5th level, that does mean student has already achieved the lower 4 levels. If the student has achieved 4 level, that does mean the student has already achieved the 3rd level and below levels below that. So in a learning process, teacher should provoke the student to think and facilitate them to go or move up higher order of stages like evaluating and creating. So Bloom started with the things called as a taxonomy in 1956. And if you see the lower order thinking levels are there, and then you go from lower order thinking levels to the higher order thinking levels. Initially in 1956, the Bloom's taxonomy has nouns, and those nouns are defined in terms of the knowledge, comprehension, like that. And then there was a modification which was happened in the Bloom's taxonomy, which is also now after 2001 is known as revised Bloom's taxonomy, which we are following in our curriculum. And that taxonomy has basically the verbs. And those verbs are having the lower order thinking level, which starts from the remember, and then it goes up till create. And from 1956 to 2001, so there is an exchange in the level 5 and 6. So the evaluation has been taken place at the level 5th, which was there earlier at level 6, and the synthesis has been shifted here to become it as a create. And here, if you see all the words which are being used here are the verb which are being formulated. And the lowest is the remember level and the highest is the create level. And what we are expecting is that the student starts learning from the lower order thinking levels, and the student has to achieve the higher order thinking levels, which is the create level. Right. So whenever we talk about the assessment methods, so we also need to look into the case that the lower levels from remembering to the analyzing can be achieved through the fixed hour examination systems, whether it is a continuous internal evaluation systems or the semester end examinations. Through those levels, you can able to achieve the level up to analyzing. So 3 levels of up to applying can be achieved, and 1 more level of analyzing can be achieved. Along with that, if you want to go for the higher levels of learning, we have to go with some projects. Irrespective of the domain of study, some or the other types of case studies, projects, seminars has to be used for achieving the higher levels like analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So we need to ensure that whenever we talk about the different assessment methods, we also need to look into how we can achieve these learning levels among the students. Right? So this talks about the Bloom's taxonomy, which talks specifically for the knowledge. Along with that, student also need to understand that. So there is affective domain, which the Simpson had brought into it, and it has come up with the 4 different levels. And this Simpson talks about the emotions, attitude, and the values that the student has to acquire as a part of the learning. And then this Simpson taxonomy is got revised, and that has been converted to the so this Simpson taxonomy is being used earlier, And that is again got into different types of things. Like you will have the different types of domains. Those are called as affective domains. So when the Simpson has started this, so he started with receiving, and then the final, topmost is the characterization by value set, right? So he started with receiving phenomena, in which we talk about a willingness to hear. When we are teaching to the students, the first thing which is required as a student is there should be willingness to hear. The second level talks about responding to the phenomena. So responding talks about whenever we are willing to respond. Means I am not only having awareness, willingness to hear, but along with that, I am responding. So in the classroom, you might have seen. So whenever you raise some question, you will find that there are 5 to 6 students in your class of 60 who are responding well. So those students are having the ability to respond. If you have all the 60 students which can have ability to respond, so you will have a better level that has been achieved. Along with that, we also need to go to the higher level, which talks about the valuing. So valuing talks about the value is attached to the person by a particular object, which ranges from the acceptance to the commitment. Means the student is not only responding to the phenomena, but along with that, it also adds value to that particular response. And along with that, organizing talks about the values into the priorities and creating a unique value system. And then the highest level talks about the internalizing the values which control the behavior, which characterize of the learner. So this is how the learner has to achieve the highest level as far as possible. It starts with the receiving, and the student should go to the internalizing the values. Right? So this is the same thing. So the learner is willing to pay the attention, and the highest level which we talks about is the value system, which is being internalized and the controls the behavior of the same. So if you see the different examples of that, right? So when I say receiving, the receiving is something where by the end of the women study program, the students will listen attentively to alternative views of the select issue. So this we call it as a receiving. And the action verbs, when we are defining the course outcomes, we'll talk about attend, accept, listen. The second phenomena is the respond, in which we say that we are having the different action verbs like applaud, acclaim, approve, or volunteer. So by the end of the elementary education programs, students will able to comply with PL 94-142. So this is the response or responding. When I say valuing, so these are the action verbs. And I say that by the end of the political science program, students will be able to debate numerous sides of the argument. And when I say organization will go further with say that by the end of the environmental studies program, students will able to organize a conservation efforts of urban, suburban, and rural communities. So here I am not only teaching them about the environment, but at the end of the program, students will able to organize the conservation efforts. So this is what I call it as organization. And when I say it is a characterization by a value complex, so in that case, at the end of the counseling programs, students will be able to objectively interpret the evidences present by the clients during the therapy. So this is what we are expecting when we talk about the characterization. Okay. So this is what is expected when we talk about the characterization. So this is what is we are expecting when we say the characterization and those things. Just a minute. Okay, so the next domain which is important is the psychomotor domain. The psychomotor domain talks about the physical movements or the muscular efforts. So this was initially developed by Dave, and this emphasized on the physical skills, which involves the coordination of the brain as well as the muscular activities. So this domain is commonly used in the areas like laboratory practices, engineering, art, music. So this domain is dominantly being used in the art, music, even the sports and those areas. The hierarchical levels of all skills of learning of this domain are from the awareness of the skill to the acquiring mastery of the skill. And this starts with the imitation, uh, which talks about the copy, to the naturalization. And then what happened in 1972, the Simpson has modified this domain, in which the Simpsons talks about the 7 levels. So in the earlier psychological or the psychomotor domains which was talked about was having the 5 levels, which started from the imitation to the naturalization. Whereas in this Simpsons hierarchy, there are 7 levels, which starts at perception. So in perception, it talks about the ability to use the observed cues to guide the physical activity. For example, if I am only demonstrating how to use the particular type of machine or particular type of equipment, so based on that, if I could able to guide physical activity, so that is called as a perception. And then if I go further with a set, so I have a readiness to take a particular course of action. This involves the mental, physical, and emotional disposition. And then after that, I will go for the further for the guided response. And then I will go for the trial and error method to achieve the physical skill. With practice, this leads to better performance. So initially, I am only having a guide of physical activities, and then I will decide my mindset, and then based on the guided response, I could able to practice better. And then I go to mechanisms where I will talk about the intermediate stage in learning physical skill. With practice, the response becomes habitual and the movements are performed with the confidence and proficiency. And then I go to level 5, where the complex overt responses will be going. With further practice, the responses become automatic. The proficiency is indicated by accurate and coordinated performance with the minimum wasted efforts. And if I go to further, which we call it as the adoption level. So at this level, the skills are well developed and the individuals can modify the movements to deal with the problem situations or to meet the special requirements. And in the final, I will go for the origination. The skills are so highly developed that the creativity for the special situation is possible. If you consider any learning with this particular aspect, if you see that if you are driving a car, so whenever you are in the initial stages, and if you have some trainer, what we do in the initial stages, we just observe how that particular trainer is driving a car. So for that, first of all, we go with the simulation. So instead of going with the car directly, in some cases there may be simulators, or in some cases you will find that the drivers are provided with the clutch, brake, and all the duplicate controls along with the person who is taking the training. But initial stages, if you observe, so I am very much conscious in using the different controls, whether it is acceleration, whether it is a brake, or whether it is a clutch. and I am very much conscious in using the my driving skills in the initial stages. If I am shifting the gear, if I am turning the steering wheel, I'm very much conscious. So initially, I am trying to use only gear one and gear two when I am uh, uh, trying to learn the vehicle.
अरे ये तुटलाय ना
So
वर
in
चालू
this
आहे ना
particular
किती वाजले आता
so in this particular case, when I'm talking about getting the expertise, so first I start with I could able to only use my vehicles in one or two gears, and then I'm very conscious in brake. So I'm more focus is on pressing the brake instead of driving the vehicle in the initial stages. And as soon as you go further, you drive the vehicle for say number of kilometers. So you are getting expertise in that, and then after some expertise, I can able to drive my car to the gear 4, 5 like that. And to get further expertise, I need not to look at whether I am pressing the acceleration, whether I am pressing the clutch, or whether I am pressing the brake. There will be a natural coordination between your clutch and your brake to change the gears. There will be a natural coordination which is happening while pressing the brake. There will be a natural coordination if I want to accelerate more. And there in the initial stages or in the initial practice that you had, you might have observed that you could not able to drive the vehicle well. And if you try to accelerate more with a lower gear, you will find that the gear will suddenly stop and the engine will stop if there is no proper coordination between the brake, clutch, acceleration, and the gear. So we need to understand that if you have the proper coordination, so you will get the expertise. And with expertise, now I need not to worry about at what gear I am driving my car. To go further, what I am doing, I am driving only in my city to the particular locations, and then as soon as I get the expertise, I now start driving on the expressway or the highway, right? And then as soon as I will get more expertise, I will go into more difficult roads, like maybe I will go off roads in some way. I will also able to drive in the ghats where the roads are very narrow. I could able to go up the hill or down the hill, the roads which are being built for that. So basically, what I am trying to say is that you start with initial training where I don't have expertise, and then I will start building my expertise over the time period. And this the uh, level of perception yeah, and what is I am expecting as a uh, training of taking a training of driving a car, I have to go to the origination. And you will find after 1 or 2 years, you will try to go to the origination level. So, and it differs from person to person. Some people or the some person could able to achieve the level of origination only in the 1 or 2 months, whereas other people may take 2 or 3 years to achieve the level of origination. The same thing happens whenever you are trying to develop the different skill sets among the students. So student starts with the perception, and the student will try to attain the level of origination. So it starts with a simple level to the complex level. When I say perception, I will use the different words or the verbs like distinguish, hear, see, smell. And when I talks about the origination, I talks about the construct, create, design, and produce. So these are different examples of different levels. When I say perception, I will talk about the by the end of the music theater program, students will be able to relate the types of music to the particular dance steps. And when I say set, by the end of the physical education program, students will be able to demonstrate the proper stance for batting a ball. So here I am not saying that I could able to hit the ball. What I am saying, I have a proper stance. And with guided response, I can able to perform the golf swing as demonstrated by the instructor. And then if you go further to mechanical response, the complex response, the adoption, in adoption, I will say that by end of the industrial education programs, student will able to adapt their lessons on woodworking skills for disabled students. So I'm talking about the particular application. I'm able to develop my skill sets for the woodworking for the disabled students. And when I say origination, by the end of the dance program, students will be able to create a dance step. So it will be a new dance step which is being developed by the students. They are not only learn the dance, but at the same time they could able to create the dance step. And if you want to understand that how these different domains are working, so when I am going for studies, especially if I'm going for studies of some examinations, so in that case I am dominantly cognitive domain. When I say I'm going for some sort of emotions, where if you see these two pictures, so these two are talking dominantly about the affective domain. When I'm going in the sports, so that sports is basically a dominantly psychomotor domain, where I'm talking when I'm going with the origination. So the Virat Kohli, you can say, is having the origination. The Messi, who is the football, is having dominantly in the psychomotor domain. So whenever we are going with the sports, we say that we are dominantly psychomotor domain. And when I say the music or using some instrument, so that is the integrated experience where I should also have the knowledge as well as dominantly not only the psychomotor domain, but it has to be also have the role of cognitive domain. And you also have seen the emotions are also important when you do some act in the music, or if you are doing some dance, so you might have observed the expressions of the dancer, so expressions of the instrument player. So these are also important, along with not only cognitive understanding of the dance steps is also important when I'm talking about the integrated experiences. Right. So when I talk about the course outcomes, so course outcomes, it is very much required that these are the bricks of the academic policy pyramid, which is at the bottom. And these are the capabilities of the students at the conclusion of the course. When I say defining the course outcomes, it includes the capabilities in terms of the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain, so as to cover the KSA attributes of graduate attributes. And when I'm defining the course outcomes, so this course outcomes has to be SMART. So what do you mean by SMART? So this SMART does mean that it is the SMART. S stands for specific. So what are the course outcomes that I am going to design has to be SMART. That does mean it should be specific. Then it should be also measurable, because whatever you are defining, that should be measurable. It should be achievable. It should be realistic, and it should be time bounded. So when I say it is a simple, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound, so whenever I'm defining something, I should able to measure it, right? So measure it means whatever the course outcome I am writing, so that should have some assessment tool. When I am saying it is achievable, that does mean that I should able to achieve that particular thing, because as a course on, say, some electronics course, where I am designing some it is a course on, say, satellite, my course outcome should not say that I am able to design a satellite which I want to launch into the, say, a satellite which should be launched at a particular site. So when I say designing a satellite, I need to ensure that it is not achievable in the course of time, because it should be time bound also, because you are teaching the course for 3 to 4 months, so it should be time bound, as well as it should be realistic, because we need to understand that whether the student should able to achieve it or whether it is realistically possible. So because of that, whatever the course outcome you decide, so it should be achievable. There are some assessment items. This is not. This is just some a list which is I have listed over here, but it can be more than that. So when I'm framing the course outcomes, I have to ask the questions. So the questions will be in terms of what knowledge, skill, and abilities the student undergoing a course should demonstrate. So this particular thing is very, very important whenever I'm designing something as a course outcomes. Because whenever I am saying that I have a course on communication skill, I need to understand that what the knowledge the student should have. The as a communication skill student, though I am saying that the student should have a knowledge of grammar, but at the same time, I also need to ensure that what skills the student should have, whether the student should have a written skills, whether the student should have oral skills. So based on what is expected, based on that, I need to decide what the student should demonstrate. How will they able to demonstrate these capacities? So whenever you are designing a course, what should be the assessment tools or what should be the assessment methodologies you are using for demonstrating that? How well our course prepares to take the students to expected cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains or the levels. So whether your course will be of a level where students will get expertise in the communication skill, or students will have some basic knowledge or basic skills to communicate well. So to what level your course should be designed, based on that you have to design that particular course outcomes. So what type of assessments can be used to demonstrate the attainment? So again, if you quote the example of communication, whether my assessment will be assessment of seminar, the student has to present something, or my assessment will be in terms of writing something into the theory examinations, where the student will write that what type of grammar we need to have for the communication, where the students will write about the tenses, whether the student will talk about the voices, or whether the student has to demonstrate it through some group discussions, whether through delivering some seminars or appearing for some sort of mock interviews. So you need to decide the assessment tools that you will have. So when I say designing the structure of the course outcomes, so what are the important keywords or the elements of that course outcomes? So the first thing which is important is the action verb. So because the action verb is the element, so that identifies the performance to be demonstrated. There should be a learning statement, so that specifies the what learning will be demonstrated in the performance. So and there should be a broad statement of the criteria or standards for acceptable performance. So first two things are important when I design a or when I frame a course outcome. So action verb should be part of it and the learning statement should be part of it, because what action has to be performed, that is important. At the same time, what the learning has to be demonstrated, it is important. But along with that, you can have a optional statement for the criteria. Along with that, I will also have a statement for condition. So that condition will represent the process the learner is expected to follow, or the condition under which the to perform the action. And this is also a optional statement which is need to be understood. So while writing the course outcomes should specify both an observable behavior and the objects of the behavior. For example, if I have a learning outcome which states that student will be able to write a research paper. So this is the one of the learning outcome which I have decided. I have a course on the research methodology. In that case, I want to have one outcome or the learning outcome or the course outcome which states that students will be able to write a research paper. So this is involving only two important things. So one is related to the verb and one is related to the, if you see these four, so it is talks about the learning statement and the action verb. So if I want to add a criteria, criteria I can add, students will be able to write a research paper in the appropriate scientific style. So if I am saying that the students will be able to write a research paper, so that will be also correct. But if I want to add some criteria, so if I'm adding some criteria of appropriate scientific style, so your curriculum should also have the details about the scientific styles or the different scientific styles which are available for writing the research paper. If I put my additional condition along with the first three, so the condition under which the behavior occurs can be specified. So what I will say, at the end of their field study or at the end of their field research, students will be able to write a research paper in the appropriate scientific style. So what does it mean? Your curriculum should also address these things. So what are the syllabus that you are setting up? So in that, you also need to include that what are the styles of writing the research papers? What are the different scientific styles? At the same time, also need to understand that the field research has to be carried out as a part of the course. The student has to undergo a field research. Then only the students will be able to write a research paper. If you have the contents related to scientific style, then only the student could able to write the research paper in the appropriate scientific style. So work in the learning outcome focuses on what you assess and indirectly the assessment tool. So the assessment tool, for example, in this particular case, when I talk about the assessment tool, this assessment tool will talk about the writing a research paper. So writing the research paper is my main assessment tool that will have. So what I will do at the end of the course, I will ask the student, you have to write the research paper. And that research paper will be written in a particular scientific style. And I will ask the student, you have to go through the field research and then you have to write the paper. So that is how I can able to decide my assessment tool with the help of the verb that I am using in my course outcome. Right? So there are some additional course outcomes that I am demonstrating over here. So this particular is talking about calculate the major and minor losses associated with fluid flow in the piping networks. So this talks about the action, and this action talks about the calculate, and this calculate is at the level of apply. So which is the Bloom's taxonomy level. So Bloom's taxonomy will start with the lower level of remember, and then second level talks about the understanding, third level talks about the apply. So this particular course outcome talks about the level 3 of Bloom's taxonomy, and the learning statement talks about the major and minor losses associated with the fluid flow in the piping networks. And there is no condition applied in this particular example, and no criteria is being attached. So this is another in which we say that determine the dynamic unbalanced conditions of a given mechanical systems of rigid bodies subjected to force and acceleration. Here I am only worried about determine. So determine does mean that I am using the apply level of Bloom's taxonomy as action verb. The learning statement talks about the dynamic unbalanced conditions, and I also need to look into the condition, because I have to ensure that this particular thing is under the condition of given mechanical systems of rigid bodies subjected to force and acceleration. So whenever I am talking about the learning outcomes, I need to specify this condition. With this condition, I have to include these systems or these types of things into my syllabus, because I need to also the learner should able to also specify the condition under which the things are being worked. Okay, so this is again the same example where everything is being taken care of. So this talks about the determine the root of the given equation accurate to second decimal places using the Newton-Raphson method. So the action over here is the apply, because it is a determine. The learning statement talks about you have to find out the root of the given equation. The condition here is you have to use a particular method, because you are using a Newton-Raphson method, false position method, or what method, or the Taylor series method, or any Taylor method. So you have to put a condition. Because when I say you have to use the Newton-Raphson method, my curriculum should have that method in my curriculum. And I also added a criteria stating that it should be accurate to 2 decimal places. Accurate to 2 decimal places is the criteria. Based on that, I need to do the calculations. So I'm specific to action, the learning statement, condition, and criteria. Right? When I say my CO may contain all the conditions or all 4, or may not be all 4. So, but first and second is important. So third and fourth is the option. When I say there is example of poor CO, so the CO says that students will be able to do research. So if I'm using the statement of students will be able to do research, so this do verb is a very vague verb, and it can open to number of interpretations. Whether doing research does mean that I need to identify the research problem, review the literature. Does it mean that establish the hypothesis, use the research technology? Does it mean that collect the data, analyze the data, interpret the results, and draw the conclusions? Does it mean that recommend further scope for the research? Does it mean that all of the above? Right? So whatever the verb I'm using over here does not give me a clear guidelines about what should I expect as a learner, or what the learner is able to do at the end of the course, because this will lead to so many number of questions if you are using the vague word like do for research. So if the student will able to do the research, so there are so many things which are expected as a researcher. And whether you are expecting to have a particular modules of it, or whether you are expecting to have all the modules of it. So based on that, your curricula will be designed. So whenever I'm designing the course outcomes, we need to ensure that there should not be vague words. So vague words may be the appreciate, the vague words maybe become aware or be familiar with. So these words may be to develop. So this may be to know, learn, and understand. So this may be defining to describing the action taken by someone other than the learner. So like the program will. So here we are talking about the course, right? So here I should not say about what the program will. So these some words may make a vague statement, or the course will. So here what is important is that describing the action taken by the someone other than the learner. So this should not happen. So as we have seen, begin with the action verb, followed by the object of the verb, followed by the phrase that gives the context. For example, at the end of the field survey, the students will be able to write a report on the status of the problems in the IEEE format using LaTeX. So as far as possible, use only verb or action verb for CO. At the same time, you need to avoid the words like know, understand, familiar with, exposed to, and use the simple and unambiguous statements whenever you are writing the course outcome. So you have written the course outcomes, and after writing the course outcomes, we also need to understand that whether or the course outcomes that we have written are correct or not. So for that, there is a checklist. So this checklist will be very much helpful for you to check whether the course outcomes that you might, all of you might have written the course outcomes already. So for that, this checklist will be useful. So this checklist will be give you a detailed uh, details of whether all the uh, terminologies or all the words that we have used in the course outcomes are correct or not. So the checklist will include, does it begin with the action verb? Second, it talks about whether it is stated in terms of the student performance or rather than the teacher performance or the course content to be covered. So every CO should state the student performance. Is the CO is stated as a learning product rather than the learning? Because what is expected at the end of the learning is the product. So is the COs are stated at the proper level of generality and relatively independent of other COs, because what are the COs you are writing, whether they are independent of the other COs, because in a single course you may write 4, 5, 6 number of COs, and we also need to ensure that whether is the CO attainable in the given context, looking into the background of the student, prerequisite competencies, the time available, the facilities available. The example that I have quoted, if I say that students should be able to uh, develop a satellite which is to be projected at a particular site. So though this can be attainable, but we need to understand that we are only studying this course only for 3 months. So whether it is possible to attain that particular objective or the outcome in the 3 months of time. So that is very much required. So to do that, there is a checklist or the guidelines which are being developed. So the checklist says that C1 says that only one action verb in each CO. If there are two, so these two should be from the different domains. So one may be from the cognitive domain, one may be from the affective domain, or from the psychomotor domain. Second checklist says that, or the second item says that CO statement must be simple without vagueness and ambiguity. C3 says that CO must be realistic, achievable within the time span available. C4 says that the ability to spell through the COs must be quantifiable and measurable, because it should be quantifiable because you need to measure it. If you need to measure it, it should be quantifiable and it should be measurable. So the assessment tool for the evaluating the assessment attainment of COs must be specified or the mentioned explicitly. And C6 says that at least one CO in the list of COs of the course must be valued in the professional practice and important for the employer point of view. Because finally, whatever course you are teaching should be important from the point of view of the employer. And COs must be listed in the sequence of the taxonomical level. So generally it is said that your first CO should be having the lowest taxonomy level and the last CO should have the highest taxonomy level. And for that you can create a table. So this table will be in the form of some CO checklist, and you have to tick. So you have to take your CO and you have to check whether CO1 is having action work. If it is having action work, you have to tick. Whether it is from the knowledge domain, whether it is from the psychomotor domain or affective domain, or the this, so you have to tick. Whether you will have all the C1, so C1 you need to check. Whether you have C2, C3, C4, C5, you need to check. Whether it has assessment tool, you need to check. Whether it is mapping with the PO, that you need to check. And if it is important from the professional or employee, you need to check. So you have to use a tick. And which domain it has, if it is from the C6, C7. So all this need to be checked. If you have no tick marks in any of the that is C1 to C7. So in that case, you need to modify those COs. So this can be a good exercise that you can perform at your institute when you are having the different number of COs. Right. So these are some sample COs which has been shown here. So depending upon the COs that I am formulating, so these are some questions. So based on that, for example, you have seen that analyze the circuit diagram. So I will say that analyze the following circuits for the branch currents. So when I say design the electronic circuits, so I will use a design the value of resistor for dropping the DC supply voltage from 5 volts. So basically your COs will formulate some sort of questions of your assessment, right? So when I say I formulate the COs, at the same time I also need to ensure that I have to map it, and at the same time I also need to see that at what attainment level I have achieved those course outcomes. So when I say course outcome level, I am expecting that what is the expected level at which I am achieving that, or at the what expected level I am mapping it with the program outcomes. So generally these levels are defined as 3, 4, 5, 6. So depending upon what you expect or what is your judgment, so based on that you can go with different levels. But commonly in most of the engineering practices, they follow 3 levels. So the level 3 is for highest level and level 1 is for the lowest level. That does mean that your course outcome is mapping to the highest extent to the given program outcomes. Because what we have seen in the earlier slides is that the course outcome is the subset of program outcomes. So what we do, we study different courses, and different courses will have different course outcomes. And through those course outcomes, we are trying to achieve the program outcomes. Means at the end of the graduation, what are the skill sets required as a student? So that will be defined in terms of program outcomes. Whereas in case of course outcomes, we define it what we are expecting at the end of the course. By studying the number of courses, maybe 30 to 40 in numbers, the students should able to get the final attainment of the program. So that is program outcomes. So to do that, we need to also understand that whether your course is really contributing to the attainment of PO or not. And that will be defined in terms of levels of expectation of the attainment of the CO or the mapping of the CO with the PO. And if it is having high mapping, that does mean that your course is well mapped with the PO. And if none of the PO is mapped, in that case, you also need to rethink whether that course should be the part of your curriculum or not, if it is not mapping with the program outcomes. Okay, so this different kinds of mapping is being used. Okay, these are some sample COs. So just like the theory, there will be a lab related COs also, or the practical related COs also. So which talks about the different things. So when we talk about the lab related COs, so this will be talking about use of or using the instrument for the different purposes. We also need, we can say that device and experimental approach to characterize them. So depending upon the laboratory requirements, you can have different types of COs for the laboratory, right? So these are some examples of COs which are being defined for the laboratory, right? So if you have something, a CO which is related to the teamwork, in that case, I will say that work effectively in teams. Right? If I'm having something related to the ethics, which is one of the important PO, behave with the highest level of ethical standards. So when I say project, so project is also one of the course, and I will have the different types of course outcomes, which I will define for the course of 350 the seminar as a course. So again, I will define something in terms of the course outcomes, which will be mapping with the program outcomes. Okay, so when I talk about the learning, teaching and assessment, which will be having a 3 domains, which will be cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor domain. When I say it is a cognitive domain as a general, so in that again you have the cognitive processes, which will be in terms of remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And there will be some additional knowledge categories, which will be in terms of the factual knowledge, the conceptual knowledge, and the procedural and metacognitive knowledge, right? Then it talks about the attainment. So what is basically attainment? Because you have done the assessment, you have some theory examinations, you have some practical examinations. Based on that, if you have done some sort of assessment and those things, we also look to look into the case that whether the students are able to attain those COs or not. Because you have taught, students have learned, but up to what level the students have learned. So if you want to understand that level, we have to find out the attainment of COs. So if you see, everything in the course is defined in terms of course outcomes. And every course has a course outcome target. And when I say course outcomes, we also need to assess it through the assessment patterns. And that will be determined in terms of the assessment instruments. Once the assessment instruments are being used, so that will determine the course outcome level of the student. And in turn, it will also define the program outcomes or the program specific outcomes attainment. And if you see that the students have not attained that particular CO, in that case, you have to see that what are the gaps in the curriculum or what are the gaps in the attainment of the COs. And in that case, what I need to do is you have to plan for closing the course outcome gaps or enhancement of the course outcome target. For example, I have one CO which states that at the end of the course, the student should communicate effectively. So when I say this particular thing, I have taken an exam where out of 50 students, only 10 students could able to talk effectively. And other out of 40 students, 20 students could able to stand on a dais and they could able to speak for some time. And there are again 20 students who could not able to perform. Even they are afraid to stand on a dais and to speak a few words. So if you see this classification of 50, and I am expecting that at least 50% of the students should able to speak effectively or communicate effectively. In that case, I could able to achieve only 10, which is the 20% of your total. And when I say I have a target of 50%, so in that case, I could not able to achieve the target. I have achieved the only 20%. I have missed the target by 30%. So in that case, next time, whenever I am designing the course, whenever I'm designing the course outcomes, I need to ensure that the gap which has been calculated during the attainment of the COs has to be addressed in the next cycle, because that gap has to be fulfilled. Next time we need to ensure that the 50% of the students should speak effectively. Okay, and the process of attainment goes like this, right? So it starts with the assessment, and then you have different types of examination systems. Then we calculate the different overall CO attainment. If the attainment is achieved, so you need to increase the target. So you need to increase the target, and next year the target will be high. Because one situation I told you, in one situation, it happened that in one situation the target could not be achieved. And there is a second situation. In the second situation, it happened that the target is achieved. In that case, you have to improve the target, because improving the target is very, very important. And these are the different assessment items and assessment instruments. Those can be used for, these are different types of test items we use for the attainment or the assessment tools that we use in our thing. Right. So when we, okay, so I think Dr. Kunal, I think we should stop here because there is only 10 minutes. A lot of things has been, but rather than doing that, I think we should take some questions. So in next 10 minutes.
Sir,
Because
that is
again,
true. Because we have discussed truly a lot and we have covered almost a mammoth of this particular task, sir. So I think that we should thank sir and let this session be open for discussions. Any
Yeah.
questions from the participants? So dear participants, we are now open for questions. If any questions or queries are there in your mind, you may please come up, sir is there.
Yes, sir.
Good
I have a
evening, sir.
question.
Oh, okay. So sorry. You come first, sir. Please.
Okay, ma'am. I shall continue first, then later on you. Very vague information scientifically provided by the sir, but how it is possible for teachers as like me, who have lifelong followers of the traditional education, and now only 2 or 3 years have remained for my superannuation. So this is a big dilemma in front of me. How we should do it? Tackle this problem.
yeah, sir, one of the important outcome based education is there is no age for learning. So you are at the stage where you need to learn these things because henceforth, whatever the education system which we are going into, so that is going through a complete transition, and we are expecting that what we are expecting our students should get employment, our students should get skill sets which are required from the point of view, and it is not very difficult to get switched from the traditional education system to the outcome based education system. We have to change. What we are changing, we are changing from teacher centric to the learner centric. We are trying, we are doing it into the traditional systems also, but we are not documenting well. Now what we have done, we have changed the way we are documenting the systems. Earlier also teachers were following the outcome based education systems, but we were not into those processes. We are more into rigid processes of input output and examination systems. But nowadays we have to change ourselves to get adapted to the new systems.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Very
Yeah.
encourageous information you have provided. So thank you
And
very much.
and sir, though your 2 or 3 years are remaining, I do not feel you still have a lot of time for teaching. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ma'am, now you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for such a nice session. You have covered my answer in the sir's question itself.
Okay.
I just want you to share the complete presentation so that whenever we need, either we can contact you or we can just check your check the same session on the YouTube or on some link. Is that
Yeah.
possible for you?
I have one old session. I just one session is there, but this is some modified one. I will just check, right? Actually, I have one video channel in which it is there. So
Okay, sir. Can you just provide us the details on
yeah,
the
it is
group
there. It is
itself?
there. It is
Oh,
there.
okay.
So this
Thank
is
you so much.
basically so you can just go through you if you have QR code, you can go or there
Yeah,
is
I
link
have
also.
the QR code.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am just scanning
So,
it.
so this session is also there where I talked up to attainment. So
Yeah,
in
yeah,
today's
yeah. We
session, I talked
understood
only
that.
up to, yeah. So I talked about mapping, I talked about attainment. So
And
you can
the
go through
rest of
this.
the things are there on this channel, sir, which I just have. We just you just send on the screen itself. We can
Yeah,
scan them
most
and we
of,
can go for the complete session.
most of the, yeah, everything is there in this session. So it was, I think, again, 3-4 hour session. So you can go through part by part as and when you have time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, sir. It was a very informative and very nice session. We were enlightened with all the NBA accreditation, binary system, and what is COs and POs. But nowadays we are facing the problem how to bring the students in the classroom. So please guide us regarding that also.
So that is what I am saying, sir. When your teaching methodology will change, students will come. Like for example, I will quote my example, right? I am teaching one course of mechanical measurement. So it is course related to the measurement, right? So what task I have given to the student? We have workshop. In workshop, student make some products. So we have experiential learning in which we don't ask the student to make some blocks like that. We ask the student to make the dusters. We ask the student to make the mobile stands. We make the student to make some sort of new products which will be helpful for the others. Our 50 or 100 students have made those dusters. So I ask the student, now you take the any measuring instrument, go to the workshop and measure the dimensions. So based on the dimensions, what you have to do, you have to do the statistical analysis of that. So you have to measure the dimensions for 50 students and then you have to do the statistical analysis. I have made the groups of those students. Now it is mandatory for them to go to the workshop, right? Because that is a experiential learning based assignment. So you have to make some innovative teaching learning methods because students may not be coming to your class, anybody, not your, but anybody's class because they get bored because of the theoretical aspects. So you make them more learned by changing the ways of innovation or the innovative learning or teaching. So like you can go for flipped classroom, you can go for blended learning. So these are the methods which will help the student to come to the class. Because nowadays we are talking about the generation Z or Gen Z, and now the new generation which is coming up is generation Alpha, which is again a challenging because keeping them attentive for 15 minutes is again a challenge. So what you have to do, we have to change our methods of teaching, right? You have to go with some innovative teaching learning method.
Thank you, sir. You have enlightened us with innovative ways. Till we are having some issues at local level because we are
Yeah.
in affiliated colleges and
Okay.
regular colleges. But to change the mentality of the management and the higher
Yeah.
authorities, it is a problem. Though we are introducing new methods, but they
Yeah.
are not having. They want students in the class. It's so in such condition, what we have to do?
Yeah, sir, every stakeholder, as you have seen, so every stakeholder has to contribute. Your management has to support your parents because parents is again a stakeholder which is important from the point of if the number of times if the parents are supporting the students not to go to the classes, so that will also not help. So what is important if you want to get success, every stakeholder is important, right? And every stakeholder has to contribute. If any of the stakeholders is denied to contribute, in that case you cannot get this proper success. So you can convince the management, right? So you have to convince the management stating that how it is important to have proper teaching learning of the students. So that is how we can do that. So
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
as I have told you that change mindset, right? So one of the obstacles you might have seen in the my introductory slides. So changing the mindset itself is a very challenging task, which is there, which is having a 70 to 80% of the people are reluctant to change the mindset because we are comfortable in the comfortable in the zone in which we are working. So we don't want to change our zone of teaching learning. So we need to change that somewhere. The management has to change that. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Please share the PPT, sir.
Yeah, I will change. I will share.
Sir.
Any more question from the participants?
1 minute, sir. Myself, Dr. Chaudhary. Sir, it's very interesting and very fruitful session. you quote here teaching learning, but innovative teaching learning is the main theme behind this. And in the experiential learning with practical oriented, it must face the student toward the classes. And one more thing, sir, I observed, that is the mass copy and the copy.
Yeah.
So this is one major barrier behind this.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
student not come to the class. So
yeah.
we
And
have to get
we have
solution for this to stop this very diminishing kind of this thing in the education systems.
Yeah, just sir, the example that I have quoted, like in communication skill, if you have instead of theory class, if you have every student has to perform for 5 minutes, so itself will be a different assessment tool, right? So
Yeah.
no copy is possible in that. So
Yeah.
what I am trying to say is you have to change the way the assessment is happening. So
Yes.
because if you say that I want to assess the student only based on the theory, it will not help. You have to, if the student is standing on a dais, you can give some marks to him because he has able to get that confidence of standing on a dais, right?
Yes.
Only talking will be an additional thing. So what I am trying to say, depending upon what type of course you are teaching, so you can have some different ways of assessment. So
Yeah.
those assessment should be such that the student should not mass copy. For example, what I do in my class, I will give different questions to the different students. In that case, at least they will not copy the contents of each other.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can devise such mechanisms which will help to reduce that mass copy as well as the copy, right?
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bottle nahi the.
So anybody from the participants who would propose vote of thanks? Okay. And let me take this. Dear Professor Dr. Prashant Ambad, sir, first of all, we are extremely delighted to have such a session, which was truly instrumental in getting into the technical details of the terminologies. And it was really beautiful that how lucidly you traveled through this domain and tried to cover much of the aspects that are required for the understanding of this entire topic. Still, I must say that none of the participant was feeling that this is too much. This was your art of presentation, sir. And we are really thankful that in spite of your busy schedule, you could accept our invitation and put your time for us, and truly a great quality time. On behalf of UGC MMTTC, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Marathwada University, Aurangabad, Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, and all participants of this STC, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude, and we seek the permission right at this moment, sir, that for any such future sessions also, we will be getting your support and guidance like this only. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your great time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Kunal sir, for providing me this
Thank you,
opportunity.
sir. सर्व सहभागीच्या वतीने आपले आभार.
Yeah,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.